When was this place built, Christian?
First bunkers were cast in 1942. For decades they were hidden under sand, but then in 2008 they were once again accessible.
What happens when a hidden piece of history finally comes to light? You get discoveries that completely change the way we see the past. From the secret Nazi bunker in Argentina to the underground tunnels called Hohlgangsanlagen, this discovery has left the world in complete shock. Number 1 will blow your mind.
This is the sort of thing that makes me very happy, Lenny.
Oh, look at that. German Luger, right?
Yeah, that's a German Luger. This is really interesting because your common garden troops are not going to be carrying a Luger. But this is kind of elite stuff. It's not the sort of kit that you're going to be handing out to recruits. That suggests that you've got some troops in the area who kind of know what they're about.
11. Secret Nazi bunker in Argentina. In May 2008, a playful dig in the sands along the western coast of Denmark near Hovig turned into a history buff's dream come true. 2 sharp-eyed 9-year-old boys stumbled upon a bucket peeking out from the dunes, leading to a discovery that would make any archaeologist green with envy. 4 World War II-era Nazi bunkers, hidden away under the sand for a whopping 6 decades. Tommy Casso, an electrician who doubles as a history enthusiast, couldn't believe his luck. Describing his first steps inside, he said it felt like entering the heart of a pyramid with mummies all around. And what a treasure trove it was. These bunkers were a time capsule, complete with beds, chairs, and all the mundane comforts of a soldier's life, like socks and undergarments, because even soldiers can't escape laundry day. They found everything from rusty cans and medicine vials, eek, mustard gas treatments, to soda bottles and books. Imagine finding stamps with Hitler's face just lying around. Not to mention keys and hammers that might have been last used by hands now long at rest. Jens Andersen, the curator of the Hans Tholm Museum, which focuses on Nazi fortifications, was floored by the find. Of the roughly 7,000 bunkers built by Nazis along Denmark's western shores, finding one fully furnished? That's unheard of in Europe, making this a one-of-a-kind peek into the past. The news drew crowds like you wouldn't believe, with thousands flocking from Denmark and Germany. Guided tours took the curious through these cramped 20-square-meter bunkers that once squeezed in 9 soldiers and a commander. And the buzz? It was all about whether to keep these relics of war as historical sites or do away with them. Local Mogens Koch Hansen was having none of it, hoping for a future without the bunkers, disgusted by the idea of turning them into tourist spots. On the flip side, Olbecker thought preserving them was crucial, comparing the find to Tutankhamun's tomb. Over at the Ölgod Museum's Conservation Center, curator Gert Nebrich was busy marveling at how everything stayed so well preserved. Turns out, those cold, dark bunker conditions worked like a giant vacuum, keeping history neatly packed away, just waiting to be rediscovered. What a story, right? 10. Wolf's Lair, Wolfschanze in Poland. You'd think a place with a name like the Wolf's Lair, or Wolfschanze in German, would be straight out of a spooky fairy tale, right? Well, not quite, but it does have its share of dark history and mystery. Nestled deep in the Masurian woods near the quaint village of Gierwoj in present-day Poland, this secret military headquarters was all business for Adolf Hitler during World War II. Constructed in 1941 for the ominous-sounding Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union, the site was chosen for its "Where's Waldo?" level of elusiveness. Fast forward to post-1945, the war's done, and the Wolf's Lair, abandoned, left to fend for itself against the elements. For a long time, it seemed like history was ready to forget this place, if not for the Polish government doing a sweep to remove over 54,000 landmines left in the area. Talk about a dangerous cleanup job. It wasn't until the early 1990s, after communism said goodbye to Poland, that people got really into peeling back the layers of this historical onion. Historians and archaeologists put on their Indiana Jones hats, braving the overgrown ruins to map out where bunkers, barracks, and probably a few secret nooks and crannies lay. The plot thickens when in 2024, the Leitbra Foundation from Gdansk digs up something chilling, not treasure, but 5 human skeletons under the former digs of Hermann Göring, a top-tier Nazi official. The group included 3 adults, a teenager, and heart-wrenchingly, a baby. And get this, no hands or feet, no clothes, nothing personal. Just these eerie thunderbolt stones next to each one, fossils of long-gone squid-like creatures called belemnoids. Polish prosecutors scratched their heads over this one, trying to piece together if a crime from way back when had occurred. But the skeletons were so decayed, Sherlock Holmes himself wouldn't have much to work with. The case wrapped up in March 2024, with more questions than answers. Today, the Wolf's Lair draws in the curious and the brave, with nearly 300,000 visitors yearly as of 2019. The Srokowo Forest District is even sprucing up the place with new accommodations and more historical exhibits. 9. Auschwitz. On January 27, 1945, at 3 p.m., soldiers from the Soviet Union's 322nd Rifle Division were making their way through the snow. They were part of the Red Army's 60th Army, pushing forward during World War II. Little did they know, they were about to discover Auschwitz, a name that would echo with horror for generations. As they entered, the scene was beyond words. Around 7,000 prisoners, each a shadow of their former selves, barely clinging to life. These were mostly middle-aged folks or kids not even old enough to drive, if that puts it in perspective. The grisly inventory they uncovered next was chilling. 600 lifeless bodies laid bare, 370,000 men's suits, 837,000 women's garments, and 7 tons of human hair. You'd think they'd stumbled into some twisted retail nightmare, but no, this was real. Now, backtrack a bit. Before the Soviets' arrival, the Nazis had herded about 60,000 inmates on a so-called death march. Imagine trekking through freezing conditions, starved, with the ever-present threat of a bullet for those who couldn't keep up. Brutal doesn't even start to cover it. The shock on the soldiers' faces said it all. Even General Vasily Petrenko, a tough guy seasoned by the cruelties of war, was taken aback. He said the sheer hatred the Nazis harbored towards these emaciated prisoners, who looked more like living skeletons than humans, was beyond anything he had ever seen. But amidst the bleakness, there was a glimmer of humanity. The soldiers teamed up with the Polish Red Cross, rolling up their sleeves to dish out food and medical care. Red Army hospitals took in about 4,500 of the survivors, a small beacon of hope in a sea of despair. 8. Mazy Battery in France. In 2004, British military historian Gary Stern stumbled upon something incredible, all thanks to an old map he got his hands on. This wasn't just any map, but a vintage military map from World War II. It marked an area near Grand Camp Mazy in Normandy, France, labeled as an area of high resistance. And like any good historian, Stern's curiosity was piqued. Upon visiting the indicated area, what Stern found was nothing short of a history buff's dream. Hidden beneath layers of dense undergrowth lay the long-lost Mazy Battery, a significant German artillery complex from World War II. This wasn't just a couple of old gun parts. We're talking about substantial concrete structures that had been sleeping under a green blanket for over 60 years. Determined to dig deeper, literally, Stern bought the land and rolled up his sleeves for what turned out to be a monumental excavation. The team unearthed a vast network of bunkers, gun emplacements, and more than 2 kilometers of trenches. Oh, and they found an underground hospital complete with medical supplies and equipment. Talk about hitting the historical jackpot. These findings weren't just old relics. They provided invaluable insights into the daily operations and strategic importance of the battery. It turns out, the Mazy Battery was a key player during the D-Day landings on June 6, 1944. Yet, somehow, its exact location had slipped through the cracks of history after the war, cloaked in obscurity until Stern's remarkable find. Fast forward to June 2006, and the Mazy Battery swung open its doors to the public after some serious restoration work. Today, visitors can traipse through the extensive trench systems and explore bunkers that once buzzed with wartime strategies and secrets. It's a tangible walk-through experience that connects the dots to World War II's pivotal moments. So there you have it, a hidden gem of history, unearthed by a historian with a map and a mission. And to think, all these secrets were just waiting there, ready to tell their tales to anyone who'd take the time to listen. 7. Gigantic W2 U-boat bunker. In the mid-1980s, Hamburg, Germany, served up some unexpected history when 3 German U-boats from World War II, U-255, U-3004 and U-3505, were discovered beneath a seemingly ordinary parking lot. These submarines weren't just parked there for a quick getaway, they were entombed in the remnants of the Elbe II bunker, a massive fortress meant to shield Germany's fearsome U-boat fleet from relentless Allied air attacks during the war. So, what's the deal with the Elbe II bunker? Well, planted firmly along the banks of the Elbe River, this behemoth was designed as a submarine safe house where these underwater predators could be constructed and maintained away from prying eyes and pesky bombs. As WFTES drew to a close in 1945, this bunker turned into a go-to hideout for submarines trying to dodge the increasingly frequent air raids. However, the bunker's role as a safe haven was short-lived. On April 8, 1945, a massive air raid caused a significant chunk of the bunker's roof to cave in. This twist of fate trapped the submarines in what became their concrete tomb. After the war, the powers that be found it too risky and a real headache to dismantle the bunker. Their solution? Fill it with gravel and concrete, turn it into a parking lot, and let history lie. Fast forward to the 1980s when the likes of Jack P. Malman-Schauel, Wolfgang Hirschfeld, and Walter Klutz, curious minds and fervent researchers, dug into the archives and followed the breadcrumbs to this forgotten chapter of naval history. Their dedication peeled back the layers of time, unveiling these hidden submarines and giving us a peek into the extreme measures taken during the war to protect such valuable assets. 6. La Coupole. Let me take you on a quick trip back in time to northern France, where something both eerie and fascinating lies hidden. La Coupole. This underground bunker wasn't your average storage spot. Built by Nazi Germany between October 1943 and July 1944, it was meant to launch V-2 rockets, those huge missiles designed to hit London. Now, the Germans weren't just throwing a dart on a map when they picked Saint-Omer for their mega project. The site was perfect, right near the English Channel and snug along railway lines to keep those rockets and supplies coming. However, despite its menacing facade and strategic smarts, La Coupole had a bit of stage fright. It never saw action thanks to the relentless Allied bombings and the sweeping advances post-D-Day. Fast forward to peacetime, and what do you do with a giant concrete dome that's just sitting there? You turn it into a museum, of course. From the 1980s onward, folks got busy transforming this relic of war into a beacon of learning. Officially opening its doors in 1997, La Coupole now serves up exhibitions that delve into the German occupation, the nitty-gritty of rocket technology, and the vast tapestry of World War II history. But wait, there's more. Added in 2012, a 3D planetarium lets visitors shoot for the stars, connecting the dots between historical rocketry and modern space travel. It's a unique twist that ties the past to the future, all under one massive 77-meter wide and 5.5-meter thick concrete dome. So next time you're in France, why not stop by La Coupole? It's a history lesson with a touch of interstellar adventure. 5. The Blockhaus der Berleck. The things we build when we're up to no good. For instance, the Blockhaus der Berleck, nestled near Saint-Omer in northern France, a hulking remnant of World War II ambition that could have rewritten history books in a very grim way. Constructed between March and September 1943 by Nazi Germany, this behemoth was codenamed Kraftwerk Nordwest, or Power Plant Northwest, if you prefer the less ominous translation. This wasn't just any old bunker, it was designed to be a missile mega mall, prepping over 100 V-2 rockets for daily shopping trips to London. Yep, up to 36 launches a day were planned. Strategically placed about 200 kilometers from London, it was perfectly positioned, far enough to dodge naval gunfire and cozily shielded by a northern ridge. Why there? Well, it sat like a spider at the center of a web made of main railway lines, the canalized River Aa, vital roads, and buzzing electric grids. Talk about prime real estate. And the materials? A whopping 200,000 tons of concrete and 20,000 tons of steel went into this bad boy. Now, building this monster was no small feat. The organization told cracked the whip over some 6,000 workers, including forcibly conscripted laborers from occupied countries who toiled in brutal 12-hour shifts. The plan was grand, a bomb-proof train station to ship missiles straight from Germany and even a factory for whipping up liquid oxygen. But wait, the plot thickens. By May 1943, the French Resistance's Zero France network got wind of this and spilled the beans to the British Royal Air Force. Thanks to these tip-offs, the RAF launched Operation Crossbow, bombarding the site from August 1943 to August 1944. Their relentless welcome gifts caused severe damage, ensuring this factory of doom never reached full throttle, though it did manage to churn out some liquid oxygen. Even after its military days were dusted, the true purpose of the Blockade d'Epaulettes remained a bit of a mystery until post-liberation. Once the Allies took a good look inside in September 1944, military and science minds poked and prodded the site. Plans to repurpose the bunker never really took off, leading to its retirement. In a twist of fate, this once dreaded site turned into a history lesson for the public when it opened as a museum in 1973. Recognized in 1986 as a monument historique by the French state, it now stands as a stark reminder of wartime engineering and the lengths to which desperation can drive innovation. Who would have thought that a place built for such dark deeds could end up enlightening future generations? Fusser. Mittelbau Dora concentration camp. History isn't just about the big wins or losses. It's also about those jaw-dropping moments that make you realize just how complex humanity is. Take April 11th, 1945, for instance, when the U.S. Army's 3rd Armored Division and the 104th Infantry Division were cutting a swath through central Germany. As they neared the town of Nordhausen, they were about to stumble upon something far beyond the usual military target. Intelligence had hinted at a significant Nazi site nearby, but I bet nothing could have prepared them for what they were about to find: the Mittelbau Dora concentration camp. Now, this wasn't just any camp. It was a hub for producing V-2 rockets, the kind that had been raining down on London. But rockets weren't the only things being assembled there. Human suffering was manufactured on an industrial scale. As the troops entered the camp, the scene that greeted them was nothing short of horrific. About 250 prisoners, each one more gaunt and ghostly than the last, were barely clinging to life. Abandoned by the fleeing SS guards, these survivors were a somber testament to the extremes of human cruelty, afflicted by diseases, starvation, and the scars of relentless forced labor. Without skipping a beat, the soldiers shifted gears from combat to rescue, orchestrating a massive evacuation to get these survivors the medical care they desperately needed. It's one thing to hear about the atrocities of war, but seeing it firsthand, that changes you. Established in the latter part of 1943 as a Buchenwald subcamp, Mittelbau Dora was hell on earth. Prisoners were forced into backbreaking work for up to 14-hour stretches, crafting V-2 rockets in underground factories designed for anything but human occupancy. The nutrition was laughable, medical care was a foreign concept, and the death toll: a staggering 20,000 out of roughly 60,000 prisoners who passed through its gates. The liberation of this camp by American forces not only threw back the curtain on the Nazis' brutal use of forced labor, but also played a pivotal role in documenting these war crimes. 3. Hohlgangsanlagen, tunnels in Jersey. During the thick of World War II, the German forces weren't just occupying Jersey and the Channel Islands. They were busy turning it into a fortress right under everyone's noses. These clever folks built a whole network of underground tunnels called Hohlgangsanlagen, which means cave passage installation. A mouthful, right? But these tunnels weren't for sneaking around. They were designed to shield troops and gear from aerial bombardments and beef up the island's defenses. It all kicked off in 1941 after Hitler ordered the fortification of the Channel Islands, which were part of his grandiose Atlantic Wall defenses. The work was spearheaded by the organization Tod, a name that sounds more like a techno band than a group of engineers. They roped in everyone they could: forced laborers, including POWs and folks from occupied territories, alongside volunteers and skilled workers. The conditions were brutal, particularly for the forced laborers who dealt with malnutrition and exhaustion. These tunnels, strategically dotted around the island, did more than just serve as hidey holes. They were integrated with existing fortifications, connecting bunkers and allowing troops to move securely underground. The engineers drilled into hillsides of loose shale, speeding up work but risking rockfalls. Once dug out, these tunnels were lined with concrete to keep them from collapsing. One standout is Hohlgangsanlagen 8, or HO8. also dubbed the German Underground Hospital. Initially planned as an ammo dump and barracks, by late 1943 it morphed into a hospital setup with 500 beds, complete with heating, air conditioning, and a full-blown operating theater. Talk about being prepared. Yet, despite the bells and whistles, it never saw action as a medical facility. After Jersey's liberation on May 9, 1945, these tunnels were left to gather dust until 1946, when the States of Jersey turned H08 into a museum. Fast forward to 1961, and a court ruling handed ownership to the landowners above, keeping it in private hands. Now known as the Jersey War Tunnels, this museum walks visitors through the occupation period with exhibits that bring this intense chapter of history to life. Quite the journey from a wartime bunker to a history buff's haven. 2. Project Reese in Poland. Have you ever heard of Project Reese? This colossal operation, dubbed Giant in German, was Nazi Germany's ambitious, albeit mysterious, underground endeavor that kicked off between 1943 and 1945. Nestled in the Owl Mountains and snaking beneath Książ Castle in what's now Poland, this network of 7 underground complexes was quite the enigma. Now, the juicy part isn't just what they were building, but why. You see, the true purpose of these mammoth structures has been a head-scratcher for decades. With most of the original documents lost to time, historians have been piecing together theories like a suspense novel. Some argue these were meant to be the ultimate Führer headquarters, ready for war that reaches their doorstep, while others think these were high-tech arms production factories in disguise. Here's where it gets grim, though. The brute force powering this monumental construction, forced laborers, prisoners of war, concentration camp souls, and others drafted against their will. These workers faced unthinkable conditions, battling disease, hunger, and the relentless, unforgiving Nice Rock. Sadly, many didn't make it out, paying the ultimate price for a project they never signed up for. For years after the war, these ghostly tunnels lay hidden under the Owl Mountain's thick green canopy, forgotten by time and overshadowed by the war's broader atrocities. But as the decades rolled by, curiosity kicked in. Fueled by intrigue and respect for the past, local explorers and historians began to untangle the web of tunnels that Project Reese left behind. Fast forward to today, and some of these underground behemoths, like the Osavka complex, nicknamed the Underground City, are now open to the public. If you're up for a bit of chilly history, these tours are a must. They don't just show off the engineering might, but also tell tales of the people who toiled away in darkness, a poignant reminder of the human cost tethered to these cold concrete walls. The legacy of Project Reese isn't just about unearthing the past, but keeping the memory of the lost alive. With each tunnel explored and each story told, we chip away at the mysteries while honoring those who suffered through one of history's darkest chapters. Quite the giant tale, isn't it? 1. The Battery Tod. Back in September 1944, as World War II was inching towards its grand finale, the Allied forces were pushing through France, eager to liberate it from Nazi clutches. Their target? The imposing Battery Tod, a German coastal artillery installation near Cap Gris-Nez in northern France. This massive stronghold consisted of 4 colossal bunkers, each housing a 380mm naval cannon capable of launching shells over 55 kilometers all the way to the British coast. The task of dealing with this behemoth fell to the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division and, more specifically, the gritty North Nova Scotia Highlanders. They dubbed this mission Operation Undergo, which sounds less like a military operation and more like an extreme home makeover edition war style. On September 29, 1944, the action kicked off with the Royal Air Force doing what they do best, dropping a cool 2,000 tons of bombs over several days to soften up those nearly indestructible bunkers. Despite turning the surrounding area into a lunar landscape, those thick concrete walls stood defiantly. So, what's a group of determined Highlanders to do? Advance under fire, supported by tanks and flamethrowers, and bring some heat to the German troops holed up inside. It must have been quite the sight, and not exactly the kind of welcome the Germans were hoping for. By the afternoon, the German forces, probably checking their watches and realizing this was a no-win scenario, decided to throw in the towel, and just like that, Battery Taut was in Allied hands, effectively putting an end to one major headache for Allied ships cruising through the English Channel. Fast forward to today, and one of those bunkers has swapped its wartime cap for a museum hat, becoming part of the Atlantic Wall Museum. It's a place where history buffs can stroll through and think, wow, so this was one of the big guns. And there you have it, folks. That was the incredible discovery of secret Nazi bunkers and the unbelievable items found inside. Which discovery shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel for more captivating content like this, and hit the bell icon so you're always in the loop. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.